Animals can have some weird habits in the bedroom. I think we've established that in my first video on animal mating rituals. But in case you haven't had enough, here's some more. From a penis that stabs you in the stomach, to literally having your head bitten off, we count 10 more bizarre animal mating rituals.
Number 10.
Quolls. Although you may not have already heard of a quoll, if you know enough about their mating rituals, you won't soon forget the species. Every winter, the females all go into heat at the same time, causing a breeding frenzy. The males will try to mate with as many females as possible, grabbing their newest mate by the neck and dragging them off to do the nasty. Average mating sessions last up to 3 hours, but can go on as long as a full day. This is because males don't release enough sperm at a time, so they must ejaculate multiple times to ensure their genes are passed on. Like many human males trying to compensate for something, the quoll males are violent and ruthless. In fact, throughout all the biting, scratching and screeching, many females end up killed in the process, only to be eaten by their angry partner.
Number 9.
Bedbugs. Why bother courting and mating when you can instead just impale and run? That seems to be the thought process behind the bedbug's reproduction method. Indeed, rather than finding the female's reproductive organs and getting a little frisky, this quick-moving bug just stabs his lady in her stomach, deposits his sperm, and leaves. The sperm then travels through the female's bloodstream into sperm receptacles and eventually into her waiting ovaries.
Number 8.
Squid. Squids may not seem like the sexiest animals around, but as it turns out, they might be some of the kinkiest. The male bioluminescent Dana octopus squid uses its beak and sharp claws to pierce holes in its mate before using a penis-like appendage to insert sperm into the cuts. On the other hand, the greater hooked squid just bypasses the stabbing step altogether by using sperm that independently burrow their way into the female's skin using an enzyme that dissolves tissue. The sharp ear and nope squid is the first known transgender squid, as some males not only resemble females in appearance, but even have female sex glands. While the debate is still out on what evolutionary benefit this provides, some researchers speculate that it allows these individuals to get closer to potential mates without being detected.
Number 7.
Seal. Is there anything cuter than a baby seal? There is when it's been crushed to death by a horde of frisky male seals who wanted to get in on the action when they heard another couple mating. Think that's a rare occurrence? Think again. Some colonies have been known to lose 2/3 of their cubs this way. That's why babies grow up so fast. The sooner they bulk up, the sooner they can avoid being crushed to death. Of course, babies aren't the only ones at risk. The male southern elephant seal often crushes the female skull and its jaws during copulation, and female monk seals are often mobbed to death by excited males when they go into heat. In fact, endangered seal species are some of the only at-risk creatures to be put on libido-suppressing drugs in order to stop them from sexing themselves into extinction.
Number 6.
Seed beetle. There are over 350,000 species of beetle, and their reproductive methods vary drastically. When it comes to beetle sex though, few have it as bad as the female seed beetle. That's because the male has a disturbingly spiky penis that always injures the female in the process of copulation. Researchers have concluded that larger spikes somehow help the males win out in the genetic arms race, and that those with the biggest, sharpest spikes also offer the most offspring.
Number 5.
Slugs and Snails. These creatures' genitals are hidden on their necks behind their eye stalks. Since they don't actually have penises, they instead have an archery battle, shooting off so-called love darts at one another. The darts, made mostly from calcium, do not contain sperm, but instead cause the victim to become more receptive to the shooter's sperm, giving it an edge in sharing its genes with the next generation. Shooting love darts can be rather dangerous, and some victims have been even known to be shot in the eye and brain in the process. But don't worry, they survive, they just carry around a giant dart for a while.
Number 4.
Wasp Spider. You probably know that black widows often eat their mates, but as it turns out, this is hardly the most violent example of spider copulation. Male wasp spiders allow their genitals to break off inside their partner just before she attacks and eats him. For a long time, researchers believed this was an attempt to escape their imminent demise. But it turns out breaking off their sex organs had no impact on whether or not the creature survived, but it did make it less likely that the female's subsequent mates would be able to pass on their genes. Females with genitals already broken off inside them ate their mates much more quickly, providing the males with even less time to attempt to successfully mate first.
Number 3.
Octopus. Next time you see an octopus tentacle, just remember, you could be looking at one of his arms, or at his penis. While the sex organ tentacle isn't truly a penis, in many species it actually fills with blood and becomes erect, just like a human's. Regardless of species though, the basic process involved is always the same. The male places a packet of sperm on his sex arm and then uses it to place the sperm into a slot on the female's body used for reproduction. In every species, the male's organ stays embedded in the female's body. He cannot regrow his sex tentacle, and he will die within a few months.
Number 2.
Praying mantis. It's common knowledge that female praying mantises eat the heads of their mates during intercourse, but as it turns out, this isn't always the case. In some species, head eating is a required part of the interaction, as it makes the male ejaculate more quickly, but in most cases, the cannibalism is actually relatively rare behavior that occurs anywhere from 5 to 31% of the time. In these cases, the female will only eat the male because she's hungry and needs more sustenance in order to go on living. Remember, most animals only mate to keep their species going, and a dead female isn't going to help the mantis survive as a species. When cannibalism doesn't occur, the mating ritual is actually a bit romantic, including a long mating dance and soft antenna stroking. Who knew these guys were such softies?
Number 1.
Bonobo. Who said that violence is the only way to solve fights over food or territory? Instead of fighting, bonobos have sex. Actually, their whole societal structure seems to revolve around sex. Bonobos use sex as greetings, a mean of solving disputes, making up for fights, and as a favor in exchange for food. They tongue kiss, engage in oral sex, mutual masturbations, have face-to-face genital sex, and even have a strange penis fencing ritual.